单一性别的组织，但是不出一种是男女生活。经济发展差异面，所以我们想说，当时就是希望慈善做这个工作。
是不是国际都市的，不管它人口呢是唯一的正向成长，最重要的它内在呢有一些改变的价值依然。
Taiwan 是男生，是女生，其实是女生和男性单性别的组织，但是变成是男女生都有。发展差异面，这个我们想说一个，当时就是说慈善促进的工作。这个我们想说一个，
Sherry. I'm the special agent of Meet Taiwan. I'm going to take you to the exhibition that is some foreign business travelers. Let's find out what's their impression of Taiwan. Let's go. We will explore the culture journey of foreign business professionals in Taiwan, discovering everything from language learning to costumes, from food, culture to festivals. We will how they integrate and appreciate the unique and rich cultural charm of Taiwan.
你好，刚下。
Everything is like not just the local language, but also like Japanese, Korean, English, and then everybody's like native speakers here.
Most of people know how to speak Japanese. Konnichiwa, arigato. Many Singaporeans love Taiwan because of the language, because of the people here. Taiwan is famous, but the people here are very good. I think that's a bit of a mini Singapore. Everyone's very happy, a lot of vibrance, everyone's quite jovial. But Taiwan is just great. So many people on the streets at all times of the day and night. People are alive in Taiwan. A lot of people that are not used to the crowded side. It's culture different ideas driving on the street with all the traffic and the scooters, different cars, and big cars and stuff. Makes me a little nervous and glad I'm not driving. Very easy.
If you look at the country, it's not the Taiwan. I'm really loving it. From the start, it's been really friendly. They're very helpful when it comes to the restaurants, where to go. 他们都来问我吃饭了吗？有什么问题跟我们说好吗？
Very welcoming, very warm, very hospitable. It's a different mentality for sure. We're always welcome here. All of our partners and clients are always very thankful that we're here.
Bubble tea is wonderful. My favorite.
I like bubble tea, but you need to be careful. It's really difficult.
Because I'm here and to try the real bubble tea. Oh, that's you need to try this bubble tea will taste. Did you know that bubble tea is from Thailand before you come here? I did not. I just learned right now. You have many different varieties there. But even in your lifetime, you have to try them all.
I'm very bad at trick writing. So, hey, you show me around, I'll pay for everything. That's how I do it.
Experience the local life.
Experience the local life. Yeah, you show me around. You're my local guy. I would love to discover more about Taiwanese culture in a different way. So I would like to visit some temple, to learn more about the Taiwanese culture, Taiwanese history. Taiwan has such a rich history, that history that shapes the country. You just need sometimes to really understand a bit more about the country. The cultural part is interesting because it helps get an idea of what really makes the country.
I'm extremely impressed with the development shown. Each and every single building has its significance to the development of the Kaohsiung city.
I like the mix between the Western civilization and the York civilization level of tradition is great.
I really love how safe it is in Taiwan. The people are very genuine and always willing to help and interested in having some cultural bridge between two cultures.
Acceptance versus other places in Asia, and obviously it's a big aspect. I like the place, I like the people, I like the nation. Awesome. I think those are some really awesome things about Taiwan. I like Taiwan to put up to more than other stuff. I enjoy my life being here. There you go. Very welcoming. Yeah, and then someone. Love the people here. Have this type of台中市不是国际都市的，不管它人口呢是唯一的正向成长，最重要的它内在的有一些改变的价值。
荣幸做出人本月台湾那它其实是一个产业，怎么说呢？它需要在里面种植，现在有意义上的是男生，是女生，其实是女生和男性单一性别的组织，但是一种是男女生都有，发展差异量大，所以我们想说一个，当时就是希望那种慈善做这个工作。
台中市民是国际都市的，不管它的人口呢是唯一的正向成长，最重要的它内在的有一些改变的价值依然够。其实是女生和男性单一性别的组织，但是一种是男女生都有，发展差异量大，所以我们想说一个，当时就是希望那种慈善做这个工作。台中市民是国际都市的，不管它的人口呢是唯一的正向成长，最重要的它内在的有一些改变的价值依然够。 I was wondering, is that screen correct? Because how come? Huh? Oh.
我们现场的贵宾，大家早安。那我们活动即将要开始，请大家先入座，谢谢。现场贵宾，大家早安。那我们活动要正式开始了，那请大家紧速入座，谢谢各位。
Dear friends, good morning. Welcome you all to attend our NGO CSW 69 plus Beijing plus 30 virtual and in-person parallel event on institutional mechanism for advancement of women. Firstly, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Helen Yang, the chairperson of Program Development Committee of Pan-Pacific and Southeast Women's Association, PPSEAWA International. And I am also the executive consultant of Taiwan Creative Economic Association, TCEA. TCEA is the organizer of this event. Now I would like to extend our sincere thanks to our event advisor, the Social Affairs Bureau of Taichung City Government, as well as co-organizers, PPSEAWA International, PPSEAWA Canada, Taiwan Global Consumer Protection Rights Association, and the Taiwan Coalition Against Violence, PCAV. In addition, many thanks to our sponsors, International Federation of Business and Professional Women, Taiwan, including the first and the second clubs in Taichung. And another sponsor is Foundation for Women's Rights, Promotion and Development. Now I would like to invite Ms. Su Chiu Chen, Senior Executive Officer of Social Affairs Bureau, Taichung City Government, 陈素秋专门委员来向我们致辞。 She will speak in Mandarin, and our interpreter will translate into English. Thank you. 谢谢资华主席哈，非常高兴看到大家。那也谢谢仁德理事长哈，把这个会议这个跨国的一个会议，然后带到台中。我在这儿非常荣幸可以代表市长、台中市长卢市长，谢谢大家，也欢迎大家来到台中，也很感谢大家来参加这个活动。我觉得这个活动非常非常有意义。怎么说呢？我们都是一些妇女组织，那联合国的妇女的一个第一位委员会，那每年都是开这个会议，那今年呢又特地来台中办，我觉得这个非常有意义。那刚刚也遇到碧珠博士哈，还在我们台中人，我觉得到台中一定有不同的一个感觉。那这个就是我们大家心之所向。那妇女的一个妇女的一个委员会，它的一个定义，它的一个目标就是在于性别平等，还有妇女的一个赋权方面的一个努力，来提升我们妇女的一个地位跟实质的效益。那这一方面呢，我觉得我们台中市要先跟大家报告，有一番非常好的一个成绩，我们是缴出了很漂亮的一个成绩。我非常感谢我们立信科长哦，他们人很少，可是呢很努力。台中连续2年得到行政院的一个认证，那我们都是优等，也就是像我们球赛说的卫冕冠军哦。那我们是不是也给我们台中市政府一个掌声鼓励？非常不容易。那至于这个在地的实践的成绩，有得到行政院的认证。那我们跨国的一个合作像我们这一次仁德理事长他刚从纽约回来，那是一些跨国的一个合作，跨国一个论坛，我们也是连续7年在台中办性别平等的一个会议。那去年也有派员到纽约去参加，所以这个在说明台中不只是在地经营，也是跨向国际跟世界接轨。那这一方面都是说明台中市政府在市长，我们卢市长是全国6都里边唯一的女市长，所以呢她非常重视这方面的议题，在经营友善平等方面不遗余力，所以台中市是最幸福宜居的城市。那这一方面也可以说明我们妇女的权益、性别的平等、地位的提升都是有一定的成绩。那今天的讲题我觉得非常的好。刚刚理事长说早上都是视讯的，那下午有实体的演讲，那我觉得这就是一个很聪明的一个安排。那今年的议题也很多，数位经济方面 AI 的一个人权伦理的一个冲击。那数位经济我相信我们都知道，性别平等跟妇女的权益、赋权方面，这个是互相表里的，应该要有赋权。那赋权方面有哪4个方面呢？第一个我们都知道是经济的参与，经济的一个提升；第2个就是教育的一个成就；那第3个呢就是我们健康的一个生活；那第4方面就是政治的充权。那当然经济是最重要，所以我们都说妇女要独立要自主，最重要就是要经济自主。那在这个经济的一个数位的一个时代，如何让我们妇女同胞更加的坚强？在这个数位的冲击之下 ，AI 现在已经这个浪潮已经是势不可挡的哦。我们都知道这个很大的一个影响力，会变革，会改变我们整个世界的环境、经济的一个发展、产业的结构。所以今天的议题有很多在这一方面，不管是人权，不管是组织，那不管是一个对经济议题的冲击、赋权的改变，那这个面向我相信都是精彩可期。那非常再次感谢大家的参与，也谢谢仁德理事长来到台中。那其实昨天就是我们时序上的春分，那我觉得春分呢，只要有观察到，哇，真的是很漂亮，草木增生哈。 那像我们诗人唐朝诗人白居易说的“春分时节，草木尽相荣”，所以真的是非常美。那欢迎大家在这么美的时节，来到这么幸福宜居的城市，这个不是我们自夸的哦，这是媒体评比的。所以在这个这么好的时光，这么好的春光，来到这一定是春风满面。我看到大家都是春光满面，祝福大家幸福美满、健康如意。谢谢大家，谢谢。Thank you, Senior Executive Officer. Thank you for your exciting addressing. Next, I would like to invite our event chairman, Mr. Frank, to deliver his address.
陈政委、杨主席，各位贵宾、各位女士、各位先生，大家早，大家好。今天欢迎大家莅临联合国非政府组织妇女地位委员会第69届年会周边平行会议。今天是我们第5次的相聚一场，共同探讨关于提高妇女社会地位的机制。这是一个关乎性别平等与社会进步的重要议题。在当今的全球化和数位化的时代，妇女的社会地位不仅关乎性别正义，更是实现永续发展目标的关键。然而，我们也面临了许多新的挑战，特别是科技迅速发展所带来的影响。人工智慧作为改变世界的重要力量，正在重新深刻的塑造经济、教育和社会的结构。它也为了女性赋权提供了前所未有的机遇，例如促进就业、提升教育资源的可及性，但同时也带来了伦理和人权方面的疑虑。AI 演算法如果是基于偏颇的数据进行训练，那可能会更加剧性别歧视，甚至排除女性在某些领域中的参与。此外 ，AI 应用在监控、数据分析等领域的时候，也有可能对隐私权和人权造成某种程度的影响。因此，我们需要共同努力，确保科技发展同时能够符合人权的标准，并且为女性创造更加公平和包容的环境。我们希望透过这场跨领域的对话，能够激发创新的思维，制定具体的行动方案，用以推动女性在各个层面的全面发展。最后，我要感谢所有的主协办单位和合作伙伴们的大力支持，使得本次会议能够顺利的举行，预祝我们本次的会议能够圆满成功。谢谢大家。
Su Chen and representatives from Social Affairs Bureau, Taichung City Government, and Section Chief Miss Lin Wang. Would you please up to the stage? Next, honorable guest is Ms. Robin Nevin, Second Secretary of Embassy of St. Lucia in ROC, Taiwan. Please. Next, Ms. Shouzhen Guo, the 8th President and Vice President Qi Yan Zhuang, and the representative of the International Federation of Business and Professional Women in Taiwan. Please, ladies. Next, I would like to introduce Miss Lin Fa Huang and the representative of Taichung First Club, International Federation of Business and Professional Women in Taiwan. Miss Huang, please. The last one is Miss Su Mian Liu, and the representative of the Taichung Second Club of the International Federation of Business and Professional Women in Taiwan. Let's take a group photo for our honorable guests. Thank you, honorable guests. Now let us take a group photo of all of us. Please just sit on your seat, and our photographer will take a group photo for all of us.
好，那我们接下来大会摄影师会从台上往台下拍，那我们是不是请坐在柱子两侧的贵宾们，可不可以帮我们移驾到中间来？这样子我们大会摄影师才可以拍到全部的人哦。谢谢各位，麻烦一下，请移步到我们中间区域的位置，谢谢。好，谢谢各位。来，那我们看向前方大会摄影师哦。好，谢谢各位，谢谢。
P1. Now I announce our event is begin. The first keynote speaker is our former Vice President, Xiulian Lü. She started to advocate feminism in Taiwan in 1971, 54 years ago. And she is also a crusade for human rights, democracy, and world peace. Her topic for today is Stop War, Save the Earth, and the Birth of She Century. It is very comprehensive topic. Vice President, the time is for you.
我们吕前副总统，您这边可以开始做您的简报了。
Vice President, you can start your presentation, please. Yes. You can start.
Greetings from Taipei, Taiwan, everybody. President Chen Rende of Taiwan Creative Economy Association, Chair Lady of PPSEAWA International, my fellow keynote speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's quite a pleasure to speak at the UN NGO Committee on the Status of Women for its Forum 69 before around the world. Speaking of the advancement of women, may I start with my personal story. In 1944, on the D-Day when the Allied forces made its landfall on Normandy, France, to fight against German Nazis, I was born in Taiwan. Twice in my childhood, I was nearly adopted by other families. It was a common practice at the end of World War II in Taiwan because of economic depression. But I was hidden by my sisters and brothers when the family came to take me. Eventually, my parents decided to raise me as they raised my siblings. I studied hard enough to be ranked #1 in the class all the time. I had received honorable scholarships to study at the University of Illinois and Harvard Law School in the United States. Later, I devoted to advocate general justice as well as human rights and democracy after returning from the state to Taiwan. By then, it was an autocratic and male chauvinist society. As a result, I suffered from carcinoma at the age of 30, and at the age of 36, I was sentenced to 12 years imprisonment because of an incitable speech delivered by me to commemorate the International Human Rights Day in 1979 before some 80,000 people. No one would expect that 20 years later, one of the defense lawyers, along with one of the seditious elements, which was me, could beat the 50 years long repressive regime to transfer their power without bloodshed. The 2000 peaceful democratization in Taiwan deserves world compliment. Ever since then, Taiwanese women's status developed rapidly. Today, we have had 1 woman president and 2 women vice president. At the parliament, women occupied 41.6% and 47% in the judicial department, including judges, prosecutors, and lawyers. Economically, women entrepreneurs occupied 37.5%. In the field of medical care and education, women even prevail men. Overall, the status of women in Taiwan ranks #1 in Asia and on the top 10 in the world. According to the UN report issued last year, there are 8.16 billion people on Earth. Female and male are around 50-50. The total population in Asia is 4.86 billion. In North America, 3.9 billion. In Africa, 1.52 billion. In Europe, 0.75 billion. And in Latin America, 0.63 billion. On average, women's life expectancy is 72 years, 6 years longer than men. I believe that it is the compensation for women's sacrifice to raise children by the God. In terms of gender equality, The UN report pointed out that Europe is the top performing region, and Iceland is the leading country. Overall, however, it will take another 134 years to reach full gender equality globally. In terms of political power, there had been 52 countries which had female head of state or government in the human history up till 2022. Among them, 11 were in power less than a year. As of 2023, there are 31 women head of state, but last year only 28. The latest UN report indicates that due to the pandemic, global conflict, climate change, and AI development, etc., women's status in 25% of world countries has degraded in the last 3 years. Economically, however, women make 85% of consumer choices. Over 900 million women around the world enter the job market, and 822 million women come from non-industrialized countries. Mobile and internet technologies help women run business easier and overcome the legal or traditional barriers that prevent them from participating. Women are the world's largest and fastest growing market, controlling and influencing 3/4 of the global consumer spending. The fact is clear that the more women in working force, the greater economic benefit is made. The potential contribution women can make to the development and prosperity needs to be recognized and emphasized both by the government and the company. Indeed, the era of she economy has come. With good income, women will become good consumers. More products are designed and marketed specifically for women to suit women's tastes. Indeed, throughout human history, there were problems after problems which threatened the survival of the earth and its beings, be it political or social, ecological or economic. In the years to come, we have to well prepare to deal with the frequent catastrophes caused by nature, including earthquake, tsunami, flood, drought, typhoon, tornadoes, landslide, and eruption of volcanoes anytime, anywhere. Although the general public are familiar with the climate change, the damages on Earth, in fact, are caused by ozone depletion, magnetic abnormality, and solar storms, much more complicated than the problems of climate change. According to the geographical record, there had been 5 great extinctions to destroy the Earth throughout the last 500 million years. Currently, we are in the midterm of the 6th great extinction. In recent years, species on Earth have been extinguished in an incredible speed. Therefore, in 1992, 1600 outstanding scientists co-signed a historical statement to warn that humankind is facing the crisis of management. 人类会灭绝的。We humankind always boast that we are the smartest animals on earth, but forget not that humankind cannot survive without the earth, but the earth can survive without humankind. According to the biologists, ants are more important than humankind for the existence of earth. Ants penetrate soil and help spread the pollen of plants. Humankind cultivate the land, but they also exploit and destroy the great nature. How much time do we have before we mankind are extinguished? What shall we do to rescue our Mother Earth? Urgent action other than controlling global climate shall be taken. Supposedly, women are the best keepers for the home and also for the earth. It's time for women, as the nurturers of life, to launch a green renovation for green civilization. The green civilization shall include the 4 interests of balance at least. 1. The value of life, 生命价值. Second, the standard of livelihood, 生活水准. Third, the quality of environment, 环境品质. Fourth, the benefit of industrial investment, 生产盈利. There's no justification for entrepreneurs to pursue their industrial benefit at the price of people's life or living standard or the environment. Without life, nothing is left, and without earth, life cannot exist. The worst way to destroy Earth and to kill people is war. Unfortunately, the entire human history has been full of wars. Just in recent years, we eyewitnessed the Russian invasion to Ukraine, as well as the slaughter of people in the Gaza Peninsula by Israel. How brutal and barbarous and expensive the war is. On behalf of the peace-loving people, may I take this opportunity to tell the world that Taiwan will not become a battlefield, nor will Taiwan be for sale. Taiwan stands up to be the beacon for peace and hope. The history indicated that 99% of wars are declared by men at the price of women's sacrifice for their beloved sons and husbands other than themselves. Why wars were always declared by men? Why women cannot decide whether there's a need to declare a war? Most importantly, what women can do for the investment of peace and prevention of war. In terms of women and peace or war, the UN Security Council reported that 1. By the end of 2020. Only 5.2% of military troops in peace operations were women. 2. Women represented only 23% of delegates in peace process held by UN. 3. None of the ceasefire agreements reached between 2018 to 2020 has included a gender provision. 4. In humanitarian relief, only 33 to 43 funding came to gender-based projects. 30 years ago in 1995, while the UN was having the Women's Conference in Beijing, I organized and hosted a feminist summit for global peace in Taipei. Many women leaders who prepared to attend the UN conference were invited to Taiwan first, with the hope to bring message for peace to China. At the end of the Feminist Peace Summit in Taiwan, a statement with feminist perspective was declared. Allow me to quote major points to share with you. 1. Recognize that the global policy into the next century should be based on precept not to kill, but to protect and enhance life. 2. Affirm that it is time for total elimination of all arms of mass destruction. Strategically, open dialogue and negotiation must replace the use of armed forces. 3. Acknowledge that protection of the rights, lives, and integrity of all children and marginalized people is fundamental for the safeguard of peace. 4th, women must take their rightful place with men in structuring policies, in governance, and at the work for peace. Moreover, we propose that the United Nations declare the year 2000 to be the International Year of Peace. Eventually, the United Nations declared 2001 instead of 2020 to be the International Year of Peace. To echo with UN, I hosted the 2001 Global Peace Assembly with the participation of 6 Nobel Peace Laureates in Taipei. An open letter to call for peace, co-signed by them and many other world celebrities, was addressed to the then President PRC Jiang Zemin. Later on of the year, I was honored to receive World Peace Award by the UN World Peace Council. It is noted that the UN Security Council passed Resolution 1325 to adopt 10 key resolutions on women, peace, and security to form the Decade for Women agenda from 2020 to 2030. In other words, the importance of the equal and full participation of women as active agents in peace and security has thus been highlighted. To point out 4 items of the Resolution 1325. Number 1, to ensure increased representation of women at all decision-making levels for the prevention, management, and resolution of conflict and peace process. Number 2, to expand the role and contribution of women in the UN field-based operations. Number 3, to increase financial, technological, and logistical support for gender-sensitive training efforts. Number 4, to carry out a study on the impact of armed conflict on women and girls, the role of women in peacekeeping and peace process and conflict resolution. Nowadays, more and more women have become active and powerful in the society, as well as in politics and economy. People are inclined to trust women in managing democracy, making women easier to be elected into public service. Ladies and gentlemen, history is not just his stories. It's time to write her stories into human stories. It's time that all the humankind, regardless of rich or poor, old or young, male or female, to be responsible and cooperative for the substantial development of the human civilization before too late. That all of us work together to stop war and to save the earth. Thank you.
Thank you, former Vice President. We have 3 questions to ask you. Do you think you can answer us?
Yes.
The first question, you pioneered Taiwan's feminism advocacy in 1971, 54 years ago. It was a long way with a lot of difficulties. Would you share how you worked out the road? You pioneered the feminism and for 55. Could you hear me? Oh, okay. You pioneered Taiwan's feminism in 1971. It's a long way to go, and I think many difficulties. Would you please share with us the road you walked out?
I'm not quite sure the question, but I can tell you it has taken me nearly 55 years
Yes.
to promote the women's status.
Mm-hmm.
The key point is the cooperation between men and women to advance the equality. In particular, thanks to President Chen Shui-bian's leadership, he began to promote women into the cabinet and government. He invited me to run for the vice president.
Yes.
It's one of the major points. To conclude, that when a woman does not fight against men, but rather we have to work together, men and women. We are friends, we are family members.
Thank you for your answer. The next question, in your speech, you mentioned that last year, over half world population in 76 countries held their general election to elect new national leadership, and a total of 28 countries have women to lead the nation countries. It's amazing. You were the vice president of Taiwan from 2000 to 2008. During this period of time, did you raise up any policy or actions to advance women's economic rights?
Of course,
Yes.
being the first woman elected by the people to overthrow the 50 years repressive opponent, I earned support from many women who used to support the government.
Yes.
Therefore, I declare the year 2001 to be the year of Taiwanese women. And I organized a national association for women's NGOs together. And later on, I applied to join the International Federation of Business Professional Women.
Yes.
Besides, outside of Taiwan, there is a North American Taiwanese Women's Association was also formed by me to include women leaders in Canada and the States. So that's just an umbrella for women's empowerment.
Thank you. The last question. In your speech, you also mentioned that the mobile and internet technologies have helped women to run business easier and overcome the legal or traditional barriers. However, the generative artificial may take
Human
over.
history should include both his story and her story. It's
Yes.
time for we women to write her stories.
Okay.
And women are empowered not only at home, but in the society and even in field of science. While AI can bring happiness and improvement for humankind,
Yes.
also people began to be worried what kind of trouble that AI industry will bring to us. So
Yes.
I would propose that some brilliant intellectual women good in science begin to study to work how to prevent the disadvantage and disaster that AI industry might bring to us in the near future.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
A pleasure.
Yes. Now we would like to connect to Los Angeles. Professor Ansenia Bedek from UC Berkeley High School of Business. Professor, the time is for you.
Hello, I am in fact not in Los Angeles. I'm in Berkeley, which is near San Francisco, and it is 7:50 p.m. here in California. Great to meet everybody. Hi, everyone. And I'm pleased to be here and pick up right where the last talk left off, which is artificial intelligence and how to think about the changes that we're seeing in firms, in the workforce, in the jobs that are available with the advent of artificial intelligence, but also to what extent there may be issues such as algorithmic bias introduced by some of these models if they're trained on unequal data, for example, on men rather than women. So a bit about my background. I'm a professor here at UC Berkeley. I am an economist. I teach finance. I'm in the business school. And a lot of my research focuses on investments in technology. So what happens when firms invest in new technology, especially artificial intelligence, how that impacts the firm, whether it benefits the firm, whether firms are able to innovate more, produce more, grow, but also what happens to the workforce, what happens to the workers at those firms as firms invest in AI. And lately, with the advent of generative artificial intelligence, I've been focusing on how well those models do at capturing heterogeneous preferences, so preferences that are different between, for example, men and women, or older versus younger people, or wealthier versus poorer people. So I have some slides to show you, just to kind of frame the conversation with the results that I've found in my research work. So let me share my screen so that you can see those. And hopefully that will also make it easier for our interpreters to translate everything I'm saying. You will notice that it's still March 20th here in California, but good morning to all of you. Well, let me start by defining what we actually mean by artificial intelligence. Of course, artificial intelligence is very much on everybody's radar these days. It's all over the news. Lots of people are concerned about AI potentially replacing certain types of jobs, whether people should be worried about their jobs, whether we should be worried about employment in general, what jobs are at risk, and what maybe actually AI is also contributing in terms of greater growth, greater income, and some new jobs that are generated. And what is artificial intelligence? What do we actually have in mind? Because the science fiction version, where the superhuman intelligence comes in, takes over the world, steals all the jobs, does everything better instead of humans, and sort of almost like a new species, that's not really what we have in mind. What we have in mind in practice, the researchers that are studying artificial intelligence, is a very specific thing. It's algorithms that make predictions from data. Now, how does this differ from the old school way, from somebody just opening up their Excel, putting in a couple of numbers, taking the average? And the way artificial intelligence differs is threefold. First of all, it's able to capture more complex, nonlinear relationships in the data. So instead of taking a simple average or running a linear regression, now we can model much more complex systems. Second, how are we able to do that? We leverage a lot more data, so larger data sets. And third, we're able to process different types of data, unstructured data, visual data, language data, so not just numbers, but also images, text, and so on. So that's really the innovation. Artificial intelligence can work with larger, more varied data to make better predictions and to model more complex relationships. There's, of course, an explosion of corporate investment in artificial intelligence in the past decade. That has come in two waves. The first wave of commercial interest in AI was around 2012 with the ImageNet challenge. That's when companies first started being really interested in investing in AI. And they have been investing for the last 12 years, basically, 13 almost. The second wave, where all of that expedited even further, came in 2022 with the advent of ChatGPT. And of course, now pretty much all of us have experienced artificial intelligence, have had either played around with it ourselves, studied it, or have people we know who are using it at work and so on. It's much more prevalent now since 2022. This latest wave is called generative artificial intelligence. And generative artificial intelligence takes that method, prediction from data, and applies it to generating. So now you can generate new text, you can generate new images, but it's still at the core, it's still prediction. You're still predicting what kind of text might be written. You're still predicting what an image might look like, but now you're generating, and that's why it's called generative AI, is basically you're predicting new images or new text. Generative AI works with even larger data sets. It does require heavy computing resources. There are concerns with electricity use and so on. But it is also able to do perhaps more varied tasks, more varied data. And then it's an open question how the landscape changes with the advent of these new technologies, with ChatGPT and with other, of course, competitors. There are ever more models coming on the market, whether it democratizes access. More people maybe have access to AI now that you don't have to have your own data, train your own model. Maybe it can automate more tasks. Maybe it can increase productivity. These are still very much open questions. And of course, it's still a very competitive landscape. Everybody wants to have their own tailored model, their own, the more data you put in, the better, and so on. What do we see so far? So far in the first decade, so this is a little bit not so much about the current wave, the ChatGPT. This is really looking at a wider angle, thinking, okay, in the 10 years from 2010 to 2020, what has happened as companies have been investing in AI? And the answer is the companies that invested in AI, they grew a lot more than the companies that didn't. So with the difference we're seeing is about 20% additional growth over 10 years. So if you divide it by 10, it's about 2% more growth every year. That's a lot. That's really good for business, that additional 2% growth. And of course, the market value, the stock prices of those companies have also gone up. Good news for the firms. But what about the workers? Well, it turns out, actually, what we see so far is that AI has not stolen jobs. Actually, employment has also gone up pretty proportionally to the company size. So those companies are producing more, selling more, their stock price is higher, but they're also hiring more workers. Why? Because for the most part, the firms are using AI to innovate, to create new products, to create new trademarks, to innovate faster, to come up with those new ideas quicker. And so they need more people to implement all of that. No, that's not always the case. And the interesting thing is to examine how the composition of the jobs changes. Are there some jobs that are being automated? Are there other jobs that are actually growing, that are benefiting from the advent of AI? And of course, for women in particular, certain jobs, certain skills may be more commonly occupied by women than others. And that's something to keep in mind, is whether that inequality may rise. And of course, to be ahead of the curve, and to focus on developing the types of skills and going into the types of jobs that are likely to benefit from AI rather than to shut down. So let's take a look at how the jobs are changing. Well, first, I'm going to give you one example of a job that actually gets a little replaced by AI. So actually, we see a drop in employment, and that's in audit. So audit is basically checking the financial statements of firms to verify that everything's okay and to kind of sign off on it. So the audit firms, the big ones, are firms like PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, and others. And they audit, so they check the financial statements of public companies in the US. And then we take a look at what happens. What happens when an audit firm hires AI personnel, starts using AI in the firm? Does it do a better job? The answer is yes, it does. So when a company like KPMG starts using AI, it does a better job auditing the financial statements. There are a lot fewer mistakes. There are a lot fewer restatements later on. But what happens to the employees? Well, what we see is that in the first couple of years, year 0, year 1, year 2, nothing's happening. But a few years later, year 3, year 4, actually, the employees are starting, the size of the workforce is starting to go down. So we, especially, and this is young employees, the junior employees, basically people who are actually doing the work, not the partners that are chatting up with the clients. Why? Well, that's because audit is the kind of task that is very close to artificial intelligence. You are checking things, you're predicting whether financial statements look incorrect, you're detecting any anomalies, you're identifying risks. That's the kind of stuff that AI is especially well suited to. In other sectors, that's not what we see. In other industries, we see a lot of growth in employment. And that's because in those industries, the companies are less focused on efficiency and doing the job better. They're more focusing on doing more, on coming up with new things. For example, Moderna came up with the COVID vaccine in a matter of months because they used machine learning, artificial intelligence to experiment faster. Without those technologies, coming up with new drugs would take much, much longer. So the experimentation cycle is expedited by the use of technologies such as artificial intelligence. And as a result, companies are able to create new products, and so they hire more workers to manage those products. Still, the workers change. When a company invests in artificial intelligence, it starts to hire more educated workers, so more likely to hire workers with college degrees, master's, and doctoral degrees, less likely to hire individuals without a college degree. Now, when we bring this back to gender, actually women are quite likely to pursue higher education, to pursue college degrees. So this can be good news. This can actually be equalizing if those are the kinds of jobs that are expanding. On the flip side, though, the types of jobs that are growing are also STEM jobs. So science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, those degrees, so individuals with degrees in those fields, are becoming more prevalent in firms that are using artificial intelligence. And degrees in humanities, social sciences, the arts, those are going down. So that's something to be mindful of as individuals, especially young individuals, are deciding what degree to pursue, what to study, is that artificial intelligence seems to be getting firms to focus even more on these technical employees. And so to the extent that women are perhaps less likely right now to be filling those technical jobs, more likely to have those humanities degrees, this is not very good news. And that's something that we should be encouraging young women to pursue those technical degrees that are going to be complementary to new technologies such as artificial intelligence. And of course, specifically technical skills, IT, analysis, those are on the rise, versus more specialized skills like maintenance, supply chain, even finance, those are actually trending down. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the latest wave of artificial intelligence, which is generative AI, ChatGPT in particular, but other models have very similar trends, and whether they're able to capture the differences between different groups, women versus men, older versus younger, wealthier versus poor, because there are documented differences. For example, when it comes to investing, and I'm a finance professor, so I really focus a lot on investing and on finance, there are differences in terms of older people. They're going to not want to take on as much risk, right? They want a fixed income. They're going to want to know what to expect. They're in retirement. They don't want to risk potentially losing all their wealth. They also don't care as much about making additional millions and millions if they're in their comfortable retirement. So they're going to take a lower risk. Younger people, they're going to take on more risk. There's also a gender difference. In general, men tend to be more risk-taking. They also tend to be more confident, in fact, overconfident. In contrast, women tend to be a bit more cautious, and that also translates to investing. So women are less keen on risky assets, for example, stocks, and are more keen than men on safer assets, for example, cash. And so the question is, do AI models like ChatGPT capture that? Because if we're going to go towards a world where these kinds of things, auditing, financial reporting, investing, are becoming automated, then it's likely that investment providers are going to use models such as ChatGPT, generative AI models, to generate investment advice and investment options for regular people. And if those models are biased, then people will not get the actual preferences that they would like. So maybe an older person would get put into a riskier portfolio than they want, or a woman might get assigned to the kind of portfolio that a man wants, with lots of trading, lots of risk, and not to the kind of portfolio a woman wants. So in one of my papers, I look at side-by-side experiments on humans and on AI agents to see whether or not the AI agents simulate the human investment preferences. And so I have 1,200 people here, individuals, humans, representative sample of the US, so half and half male, female, half and half below median, below and above median income, half and half below versus above median age. And then I have simulated AI agents that I run with GPT-4, either with or without specifying the demographics. So 150 times, I don't tell the AI to assume a specific demographic, and I'm going to see what it does when it's not guided. And then another 1,200 times, I do tell it, you are a woman with a certain income and a certain age, and then I see whether it does better in terms of capturing the different preferences. And I ask both the AI and the humans, I ask them, how do you feel about stocks? How do you feel about bonds? How do you feel about cash? From very positive, somewhat positive, neutral, somewhat negative, very negative. And I also ask them why. And I ask them to rate. Do you prefer stocks to bonds, or do you prefer bonds to stocks, or are you indifferent? And then I compare the ratings and the explanations between what the humans actually say and what the AI says when I ask it to act as a human. Well, first, let's take a look at what happens if we don't tell the AI anything about demographic information. So it actually thinks that it is gender balanced. It thinks that it's female 56% of the time. It always thinks it's high income. It likes to earn a lot. And it almost always thinks that it's young. So it's already kind of overrepresenting a certain group, young, high income, the kind of people that are likely to be chattering away about their stock portfolios online. Now, what happens about the choices that it makes? But how well it rates the stocks and the bonds and the cash? Well, here, 55% of the time, AI acts as a small group of young, high-income men. And here we do have a gender bias. It's about 50% more likely to choose the kind of things men choose than the kinds of things women choose. So this group, high-income, young, male group, it's less than 15% of the human sample, but it's 55% of the answers by the AI. So we do see an algorithmic bias that it acts as a certain group. But the good news is that the model does a lot better if we actually tell it to act as another group, if we tell it the demographics. So if we tell the AI, imagine that you are an older, wealthy woman, or an older, poor man, or an older, poor woman. They're basically 8 groups, 2 genders by 2 ages by 2 income, because we just do high and low for income and age. Then it does really well. So the correlations between what the humans are choosing and what the AI would choose across those groups are really high. They're about 70%, sometimes even more. And it matches the directional patterns. So it matches that women rate stocks lower than men. It matches that older people rate stocks lower than younger people. Older people rate cash higher than younger people. And wealthy people rate stocks and bonds higher than less wealthy people. So it matches all of those differences if we tell the model, if we specify in the prompt what type of demographic it should take on. So it's very important to do mindful prompt design if we want to capture differences between different genders or ages or incomes, because if we don't, if we just ask generative AI, how would you invest? Then it will invest as a young, high-income man. If we tell it, what would you do if you imagine you are an older, poor woman, then it will act as an older, poor woman. But if we don't specify it, it will not. So it's very important to be mindful of the design. And of course, we've seen similar patterns of algorithmic bias in other domains too. There have been high-profile media coverage of, for example, racial bias in terms of reflecting skin tones. That if the model is trained on white skin tones, they will not perform as well, the facial recognition model, on black faces. Same thing here, same thing in finance and investing. The model, of course, most of the data, most of who's going to be talking about investing online and seeking alpha and stock tweets, even on Reddit, going to be young, wealthy men. So there is a reason to be concerned about how well the model will capture other demographic groups. That said, there is enough data there that if we do specify it in the prompt that we want to act as a certain group, then the model does quite well in terms of debiasing. And moreover, not only does it capture do women like stocks more than men? It also captures the why. For example, it captures the fact that women often feel less familiar with those asset classes, that they maybe feel like they don't know that much about stocks. And that's why they're less likely to invest in stocks. Women also report worse past experiences. They're more likely to say, well, I didn't have a great experience investing in the stock market before. Yeah, I lost some money, and so I don't want to invest that much. Versus men are more likely to say, oh, I know everything about the stock market, and I've had amazing experience. I made a ton of money on it in the past, so I'm going to go all in. So we can also actually uncover the reasons behind different preferences between different demographic groups, between men and women, as well as between younger and older people and wealthier and poor people. And that can help us do both. It can help us tailor the recommendations of those AI models to specific groups, so we know that, oh, well, this group tends to have this type of experience, and so they prefer this type of investment. It can also help us guide certain groups. That maybe if a certain group feels like they're not knowledgeable, for example, women feel less knowledgeable about the stock market, that can actually lead them to make wrong choices. It can sometimes lead them to contradict themselves, to say, oh, I like stocks the same as bonds. I like cash better than stocks, but I like bonds better than cash. And then it's not actually a consistent set of preferences. And so the model can also help us perhaps figure out what the cause of those inconsistencies is, and then help us address those causes. So for example, in the case of women and having these kind of consistent preferences, giving them more information, making them feel more empowered to make those decisions, making them feel like they know enough about those investment options to really speak up and say, no, actually, I prefer this over that, and then this over that, that can help them make better decisions. And so there's a lot of potential in those models, but we should be mindful of the fact that there can be bias too, just because they're trained on so much data that is not always the most representative. So thank you so much for attending, and I will be looking forward to your questions.
Because our time is limited, so I would like to thank you for your wonderful and comprehensive presentation. I hope to invite you to Taiwan in the future, because your husband had been in Taiwan before. Hope to you can have a speech face to face, and we can learn from you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Now we will connect to Vancouver, Canada. Our speaker is Ms. Sharon Fisher, past president of Soroptimist International. Sharon, are you online?
I am. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Sharon's topic is the empowering changes, building support for the advancement of women. Thank you, Sharon. Time is for you.
Thank you very much, Helen. Let me just get my slides up here. Thank you, and greetings to the distinguished guests we have, and my friends in Taiwan, and PPSEAWA, and other fellow NGOs working to advance the status of women. Thank you for the invitation to join this panel today as the 69th Commission on the Status of Women comes to a close. My name is Sharon Fisher, past president of Soroptimist International, an NGO with members in close to 120 countries around the world, including my Soroptimist sisters in Taiwan. Soroptimist transforms the lives of women and girls through awareness, advocacy, and action to achieve human rights and gender equality for all women and girls. With general consultative status with the Economic and Social Development Commission at the United Nations, Soroptimist International is engaged in efforts from grassroots initiatives to global projects to advocacy with UN commissions. We have volunteer representatives at 7 UN locations around the world. The advancement of women is a crucial pillar of social progress, economic development, and human rights. Institutional mechanisms play a significant role in creating environments where women can thrive in political, economic, and social spheres. These mechanisms include government policies, legal frameworks, international agreements, and grassroots initiatives that promote gender equality, which is where we spend most of our time. In this presentation, I want to explore the various institutional mechanisms that support the advancement of women, the challenges that persist, and the success stories that have demonstrated tangible impact. I'll highlight some of my personal experiences working on projects that align with those mechanisms. So what are the types of mechanisms again? The first I'm going to talk about is government policies and legal frameworks. Governments play a vital role in establishing legal and policy structures that promote gender equality. And some examples include gender equality laws that ensure non-discrimination in employment and education, political representation quotas to increase women's participation in governance, and workplace protections such as parental leave policies and equal pay legislation. Then sometimes it takes a crisis to get the attention of our governments. One of the projects I'd like to share we did during my presidency was the global media campaign to end FGM, or female genital mutilation. And we took our cause to Africa, where it began hundreds of years ago. I'm convinced most people don't know why it started, but nevertheless, it prevails today. At the UN on Monday, there was a presentation with UN Women with this group that I partnered with, and they've renamed their latest campaign Born Perfect, which I thought was a wonderful name. And they decided that it's women in Africa where it started that are going to end this harmful traditional practice. And so it was a matter of funding hundreds of campaigners to go from village to village talking about this, this situation, and supplying them with some equipment to do media, and also money for radio broadcasts, and some pocket money to take people to lunch or coffee so they could talk about it. And they really have had tremendous success. We are not going to stop this practice. They are going to stop it by talking to people that matter. It's a terrible, terrible practice. And hopefully, many countries are following their lead. So that's an example of getting governments to act. Getting men in the room to watch this process actually happen was a very key part of their success, because nobody would want that to happen. You wouldn't think to your own daughter. Global institutions have established frameworks to guide nations in advancing women's rights. And those key mechanisms include the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW, as we call it. Another one is UN Women, an entity dedicated to gender equality and the empowerment of women, or the Sustainable Development Goals, number 5 specifically, which aims to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And an example of this is at the UN last week, we had 106 Soroptimists in our delegation in person on the ground in New York, including our own Helen, who's emceeing today. And we could influence our positions. It's very easy to join a delegation, at least in most countries. I am from Canada. I call up my Canadian government and say, I'd like to be on your delegation. It means they're going to communicate with me. I have the opportunity to feed my wishes to them. Whether they take it or not is another situation, but They do listen, and they feed all of the documents back to me as soon as they're ready. It's a great relationship. If we have hundreds of people on their country delegations all talking to one another, we can communicate in an exceptional way and know where the log jams are in the negotiations. It's quite interesting to watch. So international action is necessary where national action is inadequate. The next mechanism is, on this one I wanted to bring up during my presidency. I was looking for a project for older women. And I came to the realization that we work with young girls and young women, but very little with older women. And so it was, I spoke with our UN representative and said, what, are we still at the awareness stage? She said, yes. She said, but there's movement to do a UN convention to protect the rights of older people. We've been working on it for 10 years. So far, we're just in the open-ended working group on aging, and we haven't been able to get the global attention we need. And I said, well, what do you need? And they said, we need money. And I said, okay, I'll fund the campaign. Not me, but our organization would fund their campaign, which we did for 2 years. And I'm so proud to say that it created enough interest that more and more people got involved. And in August of 2024, the General Assembly at the UN decided it was time to disband the open-ended working group. They'd fulfilled their mandate and move the situation to Geneva, which is the Center for Human Rights at the UN, and they could look at the next steps. So it's a little movement, but it's movement. So things move very slow in that big world. The next mechanism is civil society and NGOs, which most of us work in. Non-governmental organizations and grassroots movements play a significant role in holding governments accountable and providing direct support to women. And some of those examples are women's shelters and crisis centers, advocacy groups lobbying for policy changes. Whoops, I touched my screen. Community development programs, empowering women through education and economic opportunities. And a few years ago, I chaired an appeal in Nepal, and a club in Japan had a sister relationship with this village, and they have brought 20,000 women into literacy. We expanded the project to deliver computers to them with teachers to give them some computer literacy. Very successful project, easy to do. This project was in the Bengali district of India, outside of Calcutta, and the project was brought to us by 2 gentlemen who thought they could do something. And they have introduced football or soccer, depending on which country you're in, to girls. They have managed to penetrate 33 villages. They have 300 girls enrolled. And the idea that they're first generation learners, their parents didn't go to school, probably don't read and write. And they are developing a team environment to avoid early marriage. So typically they might get married for dowry at the age of 12. And one of the stories I heard while I was there was one of the well, first of all, none of them so far have been married young. And one of them, the parents wanted her to marry, and she went to her coach and her older members on the team to explain the situation. And they did an intervention with the parents, and they explained that you only get a dowry once. However, if your daughter goes to school and gets a good job, she can support you for the rest of your life. And now they say, please go play soccer or football, and please work hard at it and study hard at school. And there's no more talk of early marriage. So that was really successful. And this last one was a project that became quite dear to my heart, and I've continued it. In this case, it's in rural Kenya, and they have 200 girls each year coming together to become empowered leaders. And in cooperation with the Ministry of Education, schools are selected, headmasters choose their promising leader, a young girl between 14 and 16, and they arrive at the center for 8 or 9 days to grow and learn. They learn about project management, human rights, career development, health and sanitation, environmental issues, sexual and reproductive rights, and so much more. They find themselves in a group of like-minded girls who want to become leaders. They plan a project, and when they get home, they implement the project with 15 friends, teaching them also, and they report back to the center, and the following year, 2 or 3 are selected to come back and mentor the next group of girls. We've been funding this program for 5 years, and for the last 2 years, I have taken a Soroptimist group of members to the camp for hands-on experience. It looks like we travel light, don't you think? Actually, 1 suitcase was for us and 1 suitcase was for things to take to the girls. Each of our members come back claiming it was a life-changing experience. 45 of the graduates from this program over the 12 or 14 years it's been in existence have formed a Soroptimist club. They chartered their club with 45 graduates from this program. One of the girls in the bottom middle that's standing with me is now a Soroptimist youth rep in Nairobi at the United Nations and keeps in touch with us more than we probably need to hear from her, but she keeps in touch with us a lot. We're almost at our goal of funding this project for 5 more years, so we can be planning more trips for our membership to share the experience, thus increasing our own group of advocates and what it takes to become change agents. Most of them have never seen need and poverty, and we come back and say, I think our problems are what we would call first world problems, and they're not really problems. One young girl last year shared her story, and it went like this: I want to complete school, and I will be the first person in my family to do that. But it's really hard to study when there are bullets flying close by. But I'm going to keep working hard. Very moving project. The lady on the left is the brainchild for the project. She's a Canadian citizen, but was raised in this village and now is almost back there again. Private sector initiatives are another mechanism. Corporations and businesses are increasingly recognizing the value of gender-inclusive workplaces. Some initiatives include leadership programs designed to advance women in executive roles, equal pay and diversity hiring initiatives, workplace harassment prevention policies. And for this, I chose a program that happens to be in my city of Vancouver, Canada. This project, these women are going, their club is going to be 100 years old next year. The original women are obviously gone, but they had the foresight to invest in housing for women way, way back then. And over the years, they've amassed quite a portfolio of real estate. This particular building started as 21 units. They've redeveloped the site, and it's now going to be 130 units for women-led households. And the leases will only be given to the woman of the house, not the man. And the unique thing is, you can see it says housing for women by women. And they have managed in their public-private relationships, the bank, the lawyers, the contractors, the staff at the city, the federal government, the provincial government have all assigned women to the portfolio. There is not a single man in the entire development project, and they've all gone along with this. And so we've been able to teach them the benefit of having a woman-led team. So that's been really, really successful. And then we have education and research institutions, which is the last mechanism I'm going to talk about. Education is a powerful tool for gender equality. Universities, research institutions, and training programs contribute by offering gender study programs and scholarships for women, conducting research on women's issues to inform policy, and encouraging women and girls to pursue careers in STEM and leadership roles. And these particular projects, the Soroptimist Foundation of Canada delivers postgraduate scholarships to women entering the field of women's studies, which is, and they're significant scholarships, and there's quite a few of them given, which is a great thing. Live Your Dream Education and Training Awards is a federation, Soroptimist Federation program that all clubs in our federation participate in, including the clubs in Taiwan. And it is for women who are re-entering the workforce and have had a difficult situation usually, maybe an illness, maybe a victim of violence, and they are awarded a scholarship and mentoring by the local club to motivate them to continue their journey. We also have the Dream It, Be It program support for girls, which most clubs do, and that's career counseling for the younger girls, 14, 16. And they learn, gosh, failure is terrible. No, that's how you learn. You learn by making mistakes. We all know this, but they've never heard it before. In Kenya, we said we deliver this program in Kenya when we're there, and all the girls wanted to be doctors or lawyers. And I said, why? Oh, because our father told us that's what we need to do. And we had to explain to them, it's not a direct line from getting out of high school to becoming a doctor. There's a lot of steps in the middle. So it was very interesting for us. And then there's challenges and barriers. So despite the progress made, there's a lot of challenges that still exist. Lack of enforcement. Many gender equality laws exist on paper, but they lack implementation. Cultural and societal resistance. Deeply rooted patriarchal norms often slow progress toward gender equality. And the underfunding of women's initiatives. Many programs suffer from limited financial support, reducing their impact. Many people get grants instead of core funding or operational funding. So they're just trying to do a grant and it's over and they're over and that's the end. And that's not a good thing. So addressing these challenges requires a combination of strong governance, societal shifts, and dedicated advocacy. Success stories and best practices. I've been showing projects all along, but I want to focus on 3 that are replicable, but they're the really large stories, the large initiatives. Several countries and organizations have successfully implemented institutional mechanisms that have led to significant progress in gender equality. The Nordic countries are famous for strong parental leave policies, gender-balanced governance. You hear it over and over again. They're very successful in that area because of the change in the laws. Rwanda, now it's not like we want to have a conflict and lose all the men, but that's sort of what happened. But they are leading the world in women's political representation in Rwanda, Africa, because so many men were disappeared in the conflict. And then the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, where it started with microfinance programs empowering women. And those examples illustrate how strategic policies and dedicated efforts can lead to real change. So where are we going? Future directions and call to action. The future of women's advancement depends on strengthening and expanding institutional mechanisms. Some key actions include strengthen legal protections, ensure the laws are effectively enforced, increasing women's representation, encouraging women's leadership in all sectors, expanding funding for gender equality programs. We need to ensure they are sustainable and scalable so they can be impactful projects. Building global partnerships, strengthening international cooperation to share best practices. So as we move forward, each one of us has a role to play, whether through advocacy, policy making, or business leadership, or grassroots initiatives. Together, we can build a more equitable and inclusive world for women everywhere. And so to all, keep up the great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. What time in Vancouver? What time? Midnight?
No, it's 8:30 at night. It's not too bad at all. It's not even my bedtime.
Thank you. We do not have time for questions, but I will email you the question and hope that you can respond to us by email. Is that okay?
It is. I'm going to make one sentence though, Helen. I'm going to say the answer to half the questions are: women, find a seat at the table where the money is, and find a seat at the table where the decision making is. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Professor Yinjun Li. She is the Assistant Professor, School of Law, Chongyuan Christian University in Taiwan. Professor Li is her research focus on the trade linkage issues in the intelligence, international economic, and regional economic integration. Her topic is addressing challenges and opportunities of women in the digital economic, the role of trade policy and Taiwan's experiences. So because Professor Lin has classes today, she cannot join us. So she recorded her presentation. Now we can, through the presentation, to know more about the challenges and Taiwan's experience. Now is for Dr. Lin's presentation.
Hello everyone, I am Yinjun Lin. It's my honor to present my research insights here and to share my ideas how to promoting trade agreements to advance the gender equalities. And today's presentation actually is more related to this event, institutional mechanism for the advancement of women. So I hope that my presentation can give you some insights and to work together to advance women's economies, empowerment, and economic status in international trade. So my presentation today will have the 6 parts. The first part, I will to give a general picture that how gender gaps in international trade and digital economy. Then I will to share that how the economies in Asia-Pacific region should negotiate the trade agreements to advance the women's economic status and empowerment for the women's business. So among those experiences that I will to categorize those trade agreements into different types. That you have a more detailed ideas like what kind of the gender issues will be negotiated and be regulated by trade agreements. So I will want to brief the experiences in the Asia-Pacific region. That's because the Taiwanese government, we also just do the same thing. We also to join the International Trade Alliance to negotiate the trade policies and the trade agreements to advance the women's economic status. So in the 4th part, I will to brief the progress of the gender equalities in Taiwan. So have you had more ideas like that how the Taiwanese government do to promote the gender issue and to protect the women's rights in the past years. And then I also want to explain like why the Taiwanese government they will want to leverage the trade policy and trade agreements like to advance the gender issue, like to allow the domestic policies and domestic laws can to share with other economies, but also can just use trade agreement to feedback to our national plans. So according to like the economies in the Asia Pacific and the Taiwanese experiences, in the conclusion, I will to give you the two ideas. The first idea is not many economies in the world they will to also to join these ideas like the trade agreements will be a useful tool to promote the gender issue and to advance the women's economic empowerment. But even though that we face the challenges, but we still have some hopes. So not only the Asia Pacific economy, but also the Taiwanese governments, we have the many like-minded economies they are willing to work together to use the trade policy to change the women's issues in international trade, because they have many systematic barriers for the women access to the global trade and the global market. So that will be need the engagement of the governments. So the trade policy, I believe, like, and I'm sure I will probably want to agree with me, like, it will be a new field for the gender policy. So that will be my outline. And then please allow me to share the first part. The first part, as I just said before, in the world, actually, the women's statute, not only in the economy but also political statutes, actually, it's not quite equal. Compared to the counterparties. And according to the World Economic Forum, its report last year, we can see the global gender gap actually is quite large. So if we will just transform the 68% meaning into a more visionable idea, it will mean that the women, the female, the workers, or the female people, we still need to work harder to offer 100 years to allow we can enjoy the equal status with the male. So we know that actually the world, we still have a long way to go, and we need to do something to resolve the gender gap. But if we need to resolve questions or we need to solve problems, we must know what issue we must to engage. So here, the World Economic Forum is just to show that economic and political status actually they are quite enjoy different disparity. So for the women, of course, that we will come to understanding that the women people actually will have a more the higher economic status. However, the more female people engage in the engage into the domestic economy or the global economy, it seems like we have more economic power. However, we didn't have an equal power as the political environment. It means like we are probably will to face a difficulty to share our values and to share our ideas into the governments or into the international society. So for the economies, I think that it will be the things today for my presentation. So if we were to have a close eyes into the women's economic statute, we can try to find out that the workforce, the women actually are nearly according to like high percentage in the world. However, if in the international trade, the exporter or the importer, the women the business actually are still occupied quite low, and they lead the male the business. So according to these situations, if we want to promote the digital trade or digital economy right now, we also need to know that what is the woman face right now. So according to the global map, we can also see that the global digital gender gap is still large as well. And if we were to look at like the usage. And the gender gap is also, seems like it's quite increase or improve year by year. However, we can also to see that women still have some disadvantage than the men access to the internet. So according to the two pictures, the first is the global economy, the gender gap, and also the digital internet usage, the gap. And we can look at the Asia Pacific region. The Asia Pacific region actually, we will to understand this region actually right now is a very hot hub for international trade and capital. And for the digital the usage, the Asia Pacific region, however, is didn't perform very well. So how those economy in the Asia Pacific government to promote the digital economy, especially will to equip the women and the women's business women, the women's lead, the enterprises, and can try to access to the global trade, and they can try to benefit from the digital economy. It will be the issue for those governments to think about. So we can also to see that actually women, even though they can access to the digital trade and the digital development of jobs, but I think that they have a different kind of job actually it will to women interested in. So here the World Economic Forum also to share the ideas like so what kind of job actually more women workforce will to engage in. So we can also see like professional service or the financial service, even education. I think it will responding to all the stereotype like actually the women probably will to more expert at education and financial service. However, for the engineers or even the technical jobs, the probably it will not to be advantage for the women workforce. So if we will really want to resolve the salary gap for the women in the digital economy, we also must to consider how to encourage women to unleash their intelligence to engage in more the higher technologies job or have the more the service jobs that will allow them can really to reduce the salary gap in the digital economy. So here, my question is, if the digital economy is relied on the global market, is relied on the global business, they to work together to build up the value chains and the supply chain, and how is it will be possible for the government to leverage the trade policy and the trade agreement to achieve this goal? So the following slide, I will to focus on like the different economic experiences to promote the gender issues in the trade agreements. So probably that in the end, we can try to think about again that how to encourage and to persuade the government can use this kind of policy tool, trade agreements, to engage in the women's economic empowerment and the gender policy. So that will be my second part. But before entering into the second part, I want to share a common ideas in international trade law. Actually, when we are talking about like the gender-related provisions in trade agreements, before that, the many experts and the scholars, even the officials, they are interested in international trade policy. Like we want to think about that actually trade is a gender neutral. But what means the gender neutral is mean that trade actually is just about the business. So we only need to take care like to create the business-friendly environment. That's enough. We don't need to pay attention to like how the gender, if the woman can access to the global trade, can the woman-led business can engage in the global supply chain. Those countries actually don't need to think about and even don't need to be part of the issues of the trade negotiation. But right now we can see that actually this kind of the common ideas has been challenged. If this idea didn't to be changed or adjusted, they will have no such the government are willing to create gender-related rules in trade governments. But please allow me to say one thing. Even though that including the Taiwanese government, they have some economy that are willing to address gender issues in trade policy, but not all the economies they are willing to do. So here I have some the news for you. First, I want to talk about the 2017 the WTO Declaration on Trade and Women Economic Empowerment. When the WTO members they want to join this declaration, actually they have some members they are rejected to join, rejected to work together with other members to express that actually WTO is embrace the gender response, the trade policy. So those economies, including India, it just show you actually the gender issues in trade agreements still confront some challenges and confront some questions. So that will be my work today. I want to persuade you can join us to promote these ideas, to use the trade policy to address the gender disparities in international trade. So Asia Pacific region, as I just mentioned before, this region actually is very flexible right now because the many economies here actually they are become the global factory and they attract many capitals from the other countries into there. So the Taiwan of course will be the part of this international hub for the semiconductor the industries. So for this government, how they think about the gender issue in trade policy. So here will be a picture shown with you. Before the 1995, the Beijing declarations, as just this event today that we just celebrate the first anniversary for Beijing Declaration. Before 1995, actually, it's quite limited. The government they are willing to address gender issues in trade agreements. However, in the past 2 years, the number is increased, and even achieved to the 2017, as I just to say, the WTO, they have the 118 members, they just to join a declaration saying that WTO right now agrees with many economies saying that the trade policy is important for the gender issue. So the WTO, as the international trade organization, will must to address this issue and to persuade and to encourage more economy to join this online to include the gender issue into their trade negotiation. So in the 2017, the WTO, this Buenos Aires Declaration, actually it's just to show a new trend in the world. The more economy they are willing to have the gender-related provisions or the rules in their trade agreements. No matter like they are non-binding or binding, they just to show a statute or they just show a way that actually the governments they are agreed with and they recognize the trade policy is very important to address women's disparities in global market. So according to this international trade, we can just see the Asia Pacific economy actually including Canada, the United States, or the New Zealand, Australia, or even the Japan, the Malaysia, the Singapore, they just join the bilateral or regional trade agreements. They have included the gender-related rules. Of course, we will to see the USMCA, CPTPP, or the Pacific agreements on closer the economic relations. So most regional trade agreements, they already to show that trade agreements, including the gender-related rules, is possible. It's possible. It's possible. So I think that according to this foundation, many governments, when they join these kind of trade agreements, they of course will need to think about what kind of rules they want to have, and what kind of rules can link to back to their domestic policies and domestic laws to promote the gender equality. So according to my research, I think that we have 4 general types for the gender-related rules in trade agreement. The first is that they just focus on how to promote the gender statute and the gender opportunity access to global market. The second is that to protect women's rights as women, it will be part of the laborers. So protecting the laborers' rights is also will be another issue can address the gender equality. The second, and the third type is all about the cooperation between the governments. So they probably will just say the 2 or the 3 governments. So when we join this trade agreement, we promise that we will to work together to discuss and communicate and even to share our experiences to promoting the gender equality in global trade and investment. So that will be the cooperation related rules. And the final types, this kind of rule actually is will to address attention on the business. He will want to persuade and encourage the corporates. They can try to addressing the women inequalities and to improving their conditions, including the salaries and the working environment, and even to caring their children environment for them. So the final types actually they want to address and to want to hire the corporates their responsibility to address the gender equality. So there will be the general the development and the general picture and how those governments to use trade agreement to address gender issues. So here I have some example for you. Can have more details like how those kind of provisions to look like. So for example, the trade agreement between Japan and United Kingdom, they have the one chapter that addressing the women's rights and women's economic empowerment. So in that part, that we can see that they just mentioned the WTO Joint Declaration on Trade and Women's Economic Empowerment. And this declaration also tries to reflect the CPTPP members while they want to also including the women's related provisions, because the CPTPP member, they also to join the WTO's Declaration on Trade and Women's Economic Empowerment. So of course, Taiwan, we also to join this declaration. So that's why I want to share with you that how the Taiwanese government do to including the gender-related provisions in the trade agreements. So before that, I share the Taiwanese government's our experiences how to leverage the trade policies to promote the gender equality. Please allow me to show you the performance of the Taiwan in the past years. Actually, according to the latest data, the Taiwanese gender equality actually performed quite well. They have the major gender index. The first is the OECD. It just published that the Social Institute and the Gender Index in the 2023, and Taiwan ranks the first in Asia, and we ranked the 6th globally. And for the United Nations Development Programs, the Taiwan's performing also quite well. We ranked the first in Asia and ranked 9th globally. And according to the World Economic Forum, even though the Taiwan's ranking is not as high as the 2 index, but why? Because the indicators like the three gender index, they used to have a difference. So the Taiwan's ranking is just the decrease a little bit in Asia. We just to rank the second in Asia, and we are ranked the 34th in the global economy. But I still believe that the Taiwan still is the pioneers in the Asia Pacific region to promoting the gender equality. And then I will want to share with you like how the Taiwanese government to promote our gender policy. According to my research, I believe they have 3 major methods. The first is the institution creation, and then is about legalizing the gender issue. And the final method is about to developing the national plan. So for the first method, creating the institution, starting from the 1997, we can see that actually Taiwanese government they created a Women's Rights Promotion Committee at the central government. And it also tried to allow this committee at the highest level, they can try to monitor all the gender issues and the gender-related laws, and to promote and facilitate the intra-governmental communication. So that will be the first, the central government level institution created. And then this institution was reformed in 2012, and it was reformed into the Gender Equality Committee. And this committee actually is quite interesting because it engages the public sectors and the private sectors. It allows all members they can represent the different perspectives and different groups in Taiwan society to communicate how to improve our gender policy. So that will be the first the part for the Taiwanese government to promote the gender policy. The second part will be the national laws. If we have the plans, if we have the policy, but if we have a non-binding regulation, probably the peoples and the business will think like the gender issue is now related to their daily life, and even no need to take any responsibility. So Taiwan's government also work very hard with the Congress to legalizing the mainly gender-related issues and the laws to protecting the women's rights. Starting from the 1998, we started from the Domestic Violence Prevention Act, and then we tried to pass the Same-Sex Marriage Act in 2019. So we can see that it's just to achieve a very outstanding progress in the Taiwanese society to create more the gender-friendly environment. And in the final part, it will about national plan. Because how to promote and to engage the local government, the central government, and engage all the private sectors to advance the women's rights, we need a national plan that need to guide all of us and to know where we need to go and which the purpose that we need to achieve. So the final part for the Taiwanese experiences were to develop a national plan. So starting from 2004, every 4 or 5 years, the Gender Equality Committee members will work together the Taiwanese central government to improve our national plan to ensure that our gender policy will be the pioneer in the Asia Pacific region. Because of all the Taiwanese government's achievements on promoting gender equality, so this progress explains why Taiwanese governments are very willing to work together with other economies to use trade agreements to promoting gender equality. So according to our trade negotiator, she able to share all the trade policies with other Asia Pacific economies at an APEC meeting last year. She said Taiwan actively integrates gender perspective into trade policy making and ensure gender perspective are integrated into trade and investment agreements. So in the following slide, I want to show you how Taiwan's government keep its promise to integrate the gender issue into our trade and investment agreements. First, besides the 2017 WTO Joint Declaration on Trade and Women Economic Empowerment, Taiwan also to join the WTO Declaration on the conclusion of negotiating the Service Domestic Regulation in 2021. This declaration actually is quite important because it reformed the service agreements at the WTO to address the gender equalities in the service trade agreements. So we can see the second section, which I mentioned the measures regarding the service trade. And they could not create discrimination between men and women. So that will be an important and very serious improvements at the WTO to addressing the gender issues in the multilateral trade agreements. Second, at the bilateral and regional trade agreements, the Taiwanese government right now is negotiating a trade agreement with the United States. So at the first round of the trade agreements, we already addressed the gender equality in our trade agreement. So you can see the Article 4.3, which are also to mention the service trade. It will also very similar to which I mentioned before, the WTO declaration and the service trade domestic regulation. Those trade provisions, they just to ensuring that any measures it will not creating the discrimination effects between the woman and the man, and also in all investment agreements with Canada. This example just to show you how Taiwanese governments will keep our promise to work hard with other economies to include the gender-related issues into the trade agreements. However, we must actually know actually this idea is not really supported by all economy in the world, because as we can see, have some economy actually still to embrace the common ideas, let's say the trade actually is gender neutral. So besides like the policy standing, but we also the data and some understanding of the culture in different economies. Those are the challenges we confront when we promote the trade agreement. Will be a useful instrument to advance the women's rights and the gender issue. But we still some hopes, because we can see the first at the WTO is already to recognize the importance of the trade policy to considering the gender issue and to considering the gender disparities in international trade. And then some economies, they also to create new trade agreements. It's called the Global Trade and Gender Arrangement. This arrangement is very special because it's a specific trade agreement to address the gender-related policies. So it means that it unites the all joint governments to address the women's rights and the gender policies in their trade and in the investment policy. So those new ways, of course, is crucial for Taiwanese government to thinking that how we still to continue our effort to engage in the trade-related and gender rules. But I think that the final ideas I want to share with you will be learning from the Taiwanese experiences. I think the Taiwanese experience is quite valuable because Taiwan is export-driven and a small economy. So we must rely on international trade and to promote our economic growth. So the trade policy, trade agreements is very essential for the Taiwanese economic policy. So I hope that you can try to see that how Taiwanese government which will link our domestic policies, experiences, and to the trade policy. So we use the trade policy to address our domestic gender issue. However, our national experience can just feedback to the trade agreements to achieve the win-win situation. So hopefully that my presentation today can give you some insight and can to look forward to you can try to engage in this kind of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you to Professor Lin for her comprehensive presentation. Now our morning session is to the end. And in the afternoon, 是我们用国语讲。我们有4个很好的我们台湾的讲者，包括我们的那个监察院的监察委员叶大华，然后呢还有我们那个防暴联盟的廖淑文秘书长，还有我们的陈理事长，那还有呢就是我们还有一位讲者。那我希望大家能够留下来。那下午呢是开放给大家问问题。那我相信呢互动的话会比较更好。那现在便当已经 ready， 在外面。那请大家能够领取你自己的便当，然后呢希望大家午餐愉快。然后下午呢我们一起来讨论我们一起来互动， 我相信会是非常非常好的一个event。谢谢大家，谢谢。
好，那现场的贵宾，我们早上如果有租借那个口